NBA Draft Scouting Report Series, Reed Sheppard edition. Very fun player, very polarizing player. I think a high ceiling guy. I think maybe a low floor guy. This was one of the most fun players to watch in college basketball last season. He was also one of the most conversation driving players in college basketball because he was way better than he was supposed to be. He got to Kentucky and you're thinking oh, maybe this is like a 4-year guy. And then in reality, he was so good that the coach that didn't put him in the starting lineup got fired when the season fell apart. He was also very bad in the Oakland game, but he all season long, Reed Sheppard was incredible. And there were questions of why isn't Kentucky featuring him more on a team that had a bunch of 5 stars? Well, maybe he'll go to the NBA and maybe he will get featured. He could get picked as high as second or third in this draft, which would have been insane to say before his season started at Kentucky. Before we get to our categories, Riley, just give me a general overview of the player that is Reed Sheppard.
Yeah, he's a do-everything guard. I'm not entirely convinced he's like a lead guard, but he's a secondary playmaker, can play out a pick and roll, make advanced reads, hit live dribble passes. I think he's an elite shooter. It really doesn't matter if it's off the dribble, off the catch. He doesn't really he sort of has an unorthodox release, but I think his base and his balance is perfect when he's shooting. And I don't think he's going to shoot 50% like he did this past year, but I'm a big believer in his shot. Defensively was where I think he most surprised people with how active his hands are, really good at getting steals. Had some really nice moments too, where he blocked a lot of jumpers. I think he still needs some refinement on that end because there are times he looked a little undisciplined closing out, but also plenty of times where he would just straight up swat a 3-point attempt as it left the opponent's hand. So yeah, all around guard who very polarizing, I think, but as I've watched more film on him, I've grown to be more and more in on his NBA prospects.
Yeah, he was like a historically efficient college player as a shooter. And the shooting stuff alone would be enough to make you intrigued by him, but it's everything else that Reed Sheppard does that makes you excited about him as a prospect. Because I think it was Cal at one point during the season, Cal Perry, who said this kid's a genius. I have not ever seen a college player, let alone coached a college player, that sees the game so quickly, instincts wise, defensively. And it's real. It shines through just watching the game. You don't have to do deep film study to come away from watching Reed Sheppard and saying this kid is one of one defensively. It's like watching somebody play video games. Like if I play my nephew who's 9 in NBA 2K, I just see everything at a different speed than he does. That's how Reed Sheppard plays defense. He picks stuff off and blocks shots that shouldn't be blockable because he knows what's going to happen before it happens. Now, he's small, and we'll get to that. He tested athletically great at the combine. It really is very unique. The full package of Reed Sheppard, the IQ, the shooting, the stature, and the athleticism makes him unlike anything I think we've seen in a very long time. Let's get to our categories. One word to describe Reed Sheppard.
So I said shooter, and again, I think people harp on his jack of all trades type profile. They harp on the off ball defense, but if he sticks in the NBA and gets anywhere close to his ceiling, I think it's going to be because of his shooting. I think that's what's going to keep him on the court.
It definitely could. I think it needs to. I'll get to that a little more later. My word for Reed Sheppard is unprecedented. And look, being singular can be a good thing. When we did the Zach Edey video, my takeaway was that guy is one of one. We've never seen someone like him, and that makes me believe he's gonna succeed in the NBA. For Reed, I would flip it. I would say we have not seen what is he, 6 foot? Let me make sure I get this right, and I'm not saying
He's
this.
6'1",
He's
6'1", and
6'1".
only like a 6'2" wingspan.
Basketball Reference has him listed as 6'3". I don't think he's 6'3". We have not seen a 6'1" guard that happens to be Caucasian, who is claimed to be a coach on the court that can shoot the bat. We have not seen a guy like that take over the NBA since what? Steve Nash, John Stockton, and maybe the hope is Reed Sheppard is a point guard, but he also didn't really do that at Kentucky. So it would be unprecedented to me for Reed Sheppard to actually become the upside of what everybody says he might be able to become. Is he more likely to hit his floor or his ceiling in the NBA?
Yeah, this is one I've gone back and forth a ton. Like when mid-season, when I think Gary Parrish and Kevin O'Connor both had him either first or second in their mock drafts, I was like, no way, can't see that at all. The more I the more I dove into his film, the more I think there's a chance he hits his ceiling. So I will go with ceiling, but I don't think he's a primary creator. I think in order for him to be a point guard, he'd have to have, like you mentioned, Steve Nash level passing or Trey Young level passing. And he's a good passer, but he is not on their level. But I'm going to say he hits a ceiling with the caveat that it's as like a secondary creator who can make stuff happen on defense.
Okay. This is one of the easier ones for me of the exercise, and I feel like I'm always the negative person on these. It's floor, because I think the idea of Reed Sheppard's ceiling is truly like a bouncy point guard that shoots 45% from three and is a genius. And also and isn't overwhelmed by NBA athletes or size as a 6'1" white guard. Like that just it makes no sense to me. It's like speaking a different language. And I guess that could happen. But like to me, it's way, way, way more likely that the guy who didn't even start on his college team and was so bad in the NCAA tournament game, throwing the ball out of bounds, that it got a Hall of Fame coach fired, probably isn't that in the NBA. Like that's to me, that's probably more likely. And I know
You're talking me back at the floor.
I'm just like I'm coming across as a huge hater, and I don't think he's going to be a disaster because he does too many things well.
Right.
Something about his game will stick, whether it's the athleticism or the shooting or the IQ. He's not going to fall out of the NBA. But yeah, I just think it's way more likely there's problems here than there is like a generational guy who gets picked second that didn't start for his Kentucky team that underachieved at the end of the season. What's the best team fit for him? We try to do this around where he's going to get drafted. Again, we think he's a lottery pick. I guess we don't know, but what's the best team fit?
I'll go with Houston. With the again, I'm going to give another caveat. I feel like I'm giving a lot of caveats here. I don't think you should take him with the third overall pick. I would take someone else. I had him 10th on my big board, but I think he's malleable enough because he does so many things well that he can fit in any backcourt because you have him as that secondary creator, the passer, because you have him as an elite off of elite in catch and shoot opportunities. But I like the Rockets fit because you have the size of Amin Thompson, who is basically running the point. You can play off of Alperen Şengün as well, and he can just sort of fit in, do what he does well, and figure out what his role is going to be.
So this is where I start to talk myself back into Reed. As you talk through the Houston fit, I actually think on paper that's one of the worst landing spots for him. But as you talk about it, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it makes
Mhm.
me realize I think there's not a bad landing spot for him because of how good he is at how many different things he's good at. Like he's like a chameleon where he can mold himself into whatever the team needs him to be and it works. I do still believe Houston would be a bad fit, mostly because I don't trust anybody else on Houston. And I think there's a world where Reed Sheppard gets wasted a little bit amongst the chaos of a Jalen Green led team that like also has two guards that need the ball in their hands that are like pretty inefficient volume guys. To me, I want Reed Sheppard to land on a spot where like he can have the ball in his hands, just be efficient and elevate some other guys that have really high ceilings. To me, in the lottery, the best spot for that would be San Antonio, where you pair him with basketball genius coach Greg Popovich, and you pair him with generational talent Wemby, and you're never expecting Reed Sheppard to be the superstar. There's no pressure for him to be the superstar. It's just fit in with these really, really talented things and coaches. I think it would work and be really good for him. Also, he has a Southern accent, and I guess that would work in Houston too. But like, I could picture like San Antonio culture loving Reed Sheppard.
I love the Spurs fit as well. That was on my list. And initially I was like, oh, do you want to put him on a team that's backcourt is so depleted and incompetent? Oh, but you happen to have like the future GOAT on your team as well. So I think that covers up a bunch of issues of just getting to play with Wembanyama. So yeah.
This is making me realize he fits anywhere. That's a compliment to Reed Sheppard. There's not any other player in this draft that you feel like fits anywhere. This one's going to be something. What are his peak year stats? The best season in the NBA. What do his numbers look like?
I think they look very similar to his Kentucky numbers of like 12 points, 4 assists, 4 boards, 2 steals. and
Okay, we're
probably like,
very
yeah.
aligned. Very aligned. I had 10 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, 2 steals. Perfect. And that's like if he can land in a spot where that's all they need from him, he's going to thrive and have a very, very long, lucrative career. This one's another one. You could go so many directions. In 5 years, Reed Sheppard is where? Either all NBA, all star, starter, bench, G League, overseas, or a podcaster.
Initially said bench, but since I said ceiling, I got to go starter.
Okay.
But he could be a really good bench guy and like, I don't know. I'll go starter. I'll go starter.
I hope it ends up starting. I hope it works out. I went bench. I think as we do this, there's as good of a chance that he's podcasting as he is like an all-star. Like
Right.
you're telling me right now if there was like a Reed Sheppard Rob Dillingham podcast that wouldn't chart third best in America right now? Of course it would. I think he's a bench guy. I don't think the upside is there for him to be a star starter. I think he can be a long time helpful bench guy on winning teams, and there's nothing wrong with that. He is most likely to superlative out of everyone in this draft class. Reed Sheppard is the most likely to what?
To rebrand to Isaiah Reed, hyphenated first name, Isaiah Reed Sheppard. Did you know that is his first name? Reed is his middle name. His first name is Isaiah.
His actual first name is Isaiah?
Yes. And let me hash out this theory. Willie Cauley-Stein was just Willie Stein coming out of high school. Karl Anthony Towns was just Karl Towns coming out of high school. We have the precedent of 2 Kentucky players doing this. Malik Monk. Do you know Malik Monk's Twitter handle?
Isn't it Ahmad?
Ahmad Monk. We have this history of Kentucky players like sort of changing their names. And I think like Reed Sheppard is most likely to just be Isaiah Reed Sheppard in a year from now.
Okay, first off, the nickname potential, IRS.
IRS is sick.
The tax man is here. I love it. Yeah, he's collecting dues. Are you kidding me? I want this to happen. Also, he's got to be like your favorite player in basketball history, Isaiah Shepard.
Very biblical, yes.
It's so biblical. The chosen one is here. Yeah, I yours is so much better than mine, but I thought mine was funny for a moment too. I think Reed Sheppard is the most likely to get a Wrangler jeans sponsorship.
Kind of like taking the mantle from disgraced Brett Favre. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, like Brett Favre without the character concerns. I think that's a great comp for Reed Sheppard. All right, well, this is fun. I can't wait to do our player comparison video for Reed Sheppard. You're going to want to watch that on the channel as well. Thanks for watching. The NBA draft is coming up, and I've got something awesome for you. We are partnering with the people at NBA 2K Lab. NBA 2K is the best video game on earth. The people at 2K Lab are making some awesome stuff to make that game even more fun, and they just launched their 2024 NBA Draft Simulator, where you can find the official Sleepers Media big board. We ranked our top 75 players in this draft class. Me, Carter, Brian Ralph, Riley Davis. We did it together, and it is featured on the 2K Lab NBA Draft Simulator. You can take control of any team in the draft, play GM with just one click, and see our entire rankings before these videos even come out. Check out the link in the description of this video to try out the draft sim for yourself, and you can find more mini games at nba2klab.com/NBA-mini-games.